Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into how a republic bleeds out. We're going to look at how decades of raw ambition, brutal civil war, and, let's be honest, political gang violence completely tore down the Roman Republic and paved the way for the age of emperors. So, how does a republic die? Well, it's almost never overnight. For Rome, it was this slow, violent death march, fueled by personal ambition, revenge, and just a raw hunger for absolute power. Okay, so we're going to break this down into 5 parts. We'll be focusing on 2 really fragile, superpower-hungry alliances that, in the end, sealed the Republic's fate and cleared the path for one man to rule them all. All right, first up, a republic in crisis. To really get how the whole system broke, we've got to look at where the cracks were already starting to show. The whole thing was on the brink. Okay, so Rome was just politically paralyzed. Think about it. On one side, you've got the Senate. These guys held office for life, which created this stubborn, totally unchanging ruling class. And on the other side, the people. Their power was flashy but fleeting, right? It came in these fiery, unpredictable bursts during elections, and they were completely dependent on some charismatic leader to champion their cause. And into this total gridlock steps the new kingmaker, the army. It was the only institution with the consistent power to actually force change. The military was always active, always there. So whoever could command its loyalty, well, that person could shatter the political stalemate and, let's face it, basically rule Rome. So this desperation for power, for change, it leads to something totally unprecedented, an unofficial alliance of 3 incredibly powerful men. And each one of them had their own axe to grind, their own reason for wanting to just burn the old system to the ground. And what a trio they were. Pretty unlikely, but incredibly powerful. First, you've got Pompey the Great, the celebrated general, idol of the soldiers. But the Senate wouldn't give his veterans the land they were promised. Then there's Crassus, the money guy, literally the richest man in Rome, and his financial interests were constantly getting blocked. And finally, the man himself, the charismatic Julius Caesar. He was the idol of the people, but the Senate tried to deny him everything: his military parade, his triumph, and the top job, the consulship. See, alone, each of them was just frustrated. But together, they were absolutely unstoppable. So, what did they do? In 60 BC, they formed this secret pact. Now, you got to understand, the first triumvirate wasn't some legal, official position, no way. It was a private conspiracy, an informal agreement. They combined Pompey's military muscle, Crassus's mountains of cash, and Caesar's popular appeal. What they created was, for all intents and purposes, a shadow government. The Senate, it was now powerless. But here's the thing about an alliance built purely on ambition: it's incredibly fragile. And those personal bonds holding this whole thing together, well, they were about to snap, big time. And just look at how fast it all fell apart. First, the human connection is severed. Caesar's daughter, who is also Pompey's wife, dies. Then, the balance of power shatters when Crassus is killed in battle. That turns the 2 remaining allies, Caesar and Pompey, into rivals. And then, the point of no return. Caesar crosses the Rubicon, which is a declaration of all-out civil war. Caesar wins, becomes dictator for life, and is then assassinated. It just proves one thing, right? The old rules were completely gone. All that mattered now was pure power. This quote from Cicero just hits the nail on the head. He says, "We have killed the king, but the kingdom is with us still." Think about that. Killing Caesar didn't fix a thing. Why? Because the system was already broken. All that ambition, that greed, that reliance on armies, none of that died with Caesar. All they did was take away the tyrant, but the tyranny survived. They just created a new, and honestly, a much more vicious power vacuum. So, did killing Caesar bring peace? Not a chance. Instead, it unleashed this new and frankly far more brutal alliance. This one wasn't just forged in ambition, it was forged in blood-soaked revenge. Yeah, this second triumvirate was a completely different beast. The first one, that was a secret pact. This one? Oh no. This was a public, state-sanctioned institution of terror. It was made up of Caesar's young heir, Octavius, his top general, Mark Antony, and another powerful guy, Lepidus. And their mission was simple: hunt down Caesar's killers and seize total, absolute control of Rome. And their favorite tool to achieve this was something called prescription. What is that? It was essentially a state-sponsored hit list. If your name ended up on that list, you were an enemy of the state.
Anyone could kill you on the spot with no trial, and the state, meaning the triumvirs, got to confiscate all your property. It was terrifyingly effective.
And the scale of this purge, it was just staggering. We're talking about the execution of 300 senators. This wasn't just random violence. It was a systematic extermination of their political enemies. They were wiping out a huge chunk of Rome's entire ruling class. It was a reign of terror, pure and simple. And listen to how they justified it. In their own chilling edict, they basically said, "We have chosen to forestall our enemies rather than be taken unawares by them." I mean, think about that. They're justifying mass murder as a preemptive strike. It just shows you how far the Republic had fallen. This wasn't about laws anymore. It was about pure, brutal force. So, once they took out their shared enemies, what do you think happened? Of course, the triumvirs inevitably turned on each other. It was only a matter of time. This plunged the Roman world into one final world-spanning conflict to decide who would be left standing. And it all came down to a final power struggle between two men. On one side, you have Mark Antony. He's in the east, allied with the legendary Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. He controls all the wealth of that region. And on the other side, back in Rome, you have Octavius, Caesar's legal heir. He's shrewd, he's calculating, and he's busy consolidating his power in the west. The whole thing came to a head at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. A single massive naval battle decided the fate of the entire Roman world. Octavius's forces completely crushed the combined fleets of Antony and Cleopatra. That defeat left Octavius as the one undisputed master of it all. And just like that, the Republic was gone. The empire had begun. With Octavius, who would very soon call himself Augustus, the final pretense was just dropped. The long, bloody civil wars were finally over. One man was now in charge. The Republic was officially dead. Which leaves us with one final big question. Was a Caesar or an Augustus inevitable? Was the death of the Republic just an accident, a story about a few really ambitious men? Or was the system itself so completely broken, so reliant on powerful generals, that the rise of an emperor wasn't just possible, it was unavoidable?